next Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Next Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. You are joining us on Tuesday night, October 25th at a little after 9 o'clock. The Mavericks played an early game against the Pelicans. Played like shit. Lost 113 to 111, despite the Pelicans missing 3 starters. I really don't know how to discuss this loss. I think in terms of a game summary, if you just happen to miss the game, Dallas came out terrible on defense and slightly off kilter on offense, got down pretty early. They were down by 9 at the end of the quarter, though it was much bigger than that at certain points. Dallas brought it within 2 within halftime, and then, ended up taking, I think a lead into the fourth quarter, and once again lost that lead. And the Pelicans got ahead late and held on to it. And I have a specific reason that I think this happened, because it was almost a textbook replay of what happened in Phoenix, where in the fourth quarter, Coach Kidd insisted on putting in a defensive lineup. And if I had video, you would see air quotes, because in what a defensive lineup suggests is that the lineup would play defense and get stops. But when the defensive lineup loses leads, they're not a defensive lineup. They're just a shitty lineup. And the Mavericks found themselves in clutch time once again down, and they got within 1 and they just lost the ball game. And I am not like incandescently mad, but I'm really irritated, because to me, this is the second straight game where it's on the coaching decisions as much as it is elements of certain players needing to play better. Spencer Dinwiddie played 38 minutes tonight, scored 24 points, was 4 of 8 from 3, and yet somehow managed to be a negative 15 in a 2-point loss. I cannot describe how hard that is to do. I've been ranting already. Josh, you go.
I think what's disappointing is, the Mavericks are 1-2.
Mm-hmm. And they should be 3-0.
They should be 3-0. And it hasn't been a good, I think in normal conditions, you would look at these first 3 games, and if you said 1-2, like a couple weeks ago,
yeah,
or if you didn't tell them like what the schedule looked like, yeah, you'd be like, okay, whatever. But like
we
the
talked
Mavericks
about that when the schedule came out.
Yeah, but the Mavericks had 2 nights off. They had 2 nights off before the Memphis game. Mm-hmm. So that's 4 nights off in 6 days, 2 games in 6 days, which is in the NBA. That just, you get stretches like that occasionally and you savor them. And for the Mavericks to start their season like that is like a blessing, considering, teams don't have a lot of practice. They basically probably got to keep training camp go. They actually got to keep practicing, which when the season starts, usually practice is over. Mm-hmm. So they've had a blessed schedule in terms of rest, no back-to-backs, no 3 and 4 nights. And then, they play Memphis in 3 and 4 nights. Memphis on second night of back-to-back. They have 2 nights rest and they kill them. And Memphis was hurt too. And then they play a New Orleans team, like you said, missing 3 starters. And it wasn't like Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, and like another, like it was Zion and Brandon Ingram and Herb Jones, which was like their two best players, and then Herb is probably like their fourth or fifth best player. So it wasn't just, 3 starters is a lot, but they were also missing their two best players and their best wing, which makes this game especially, like, I think what I'm trying to say is this has not been, despite the fact that the Mavericks have a 41-point win under their belt. I'm not trying to be like, break up the Mavs. This team's awful.
No,
I'm just saying, like, this is a bad start, and I'm disappointed in the way this team has started, given the fact that they have had a really like favorable start to the season in terms of rest, in terms of opponent health. Like, they really couldn't have asked for a better way to start the season, aside from playing all these tough teams at the start, but like missing all these like that part is just really bumming me out, because the Mavericks will get on track eventually, and they will right the ship. And what's going to suck is the West is so good. We're going to look back when the Mavs are a game and a half out of fourth place or fifth, whatever it is in March, and we're going to think about these games and be like, man, how did they lose those games? And that's the frustrating part to me.
We already had one fella, and I tweeted after the game, because look, I'm of my power rankings of why the Mavericks lost this game, I'm putting this at the feet of the head coach who makes the coaching decisions. We'll circle some of the things that he did. It involves, basically insisting on JaVale McGee being a Maverick. But I had somebody just send me a message of, well, they were 500 basketball team in January 1st, and everything was fine. Well, I'm not going to count on the Mavericks winning 75% of their games in the new year.
It's not a good strategy to keep.
Like,
getting
it's just not. Yeah, you
want
to figure out easier things earlier and win some games when it matters. When teams are still figuring it out, like, you want other teams to be saying, "Man, we really should have beat the Mavericks back in October." That's one that sticks out.
And isn't part of the reason, like, you've got a roster with so much continuity? Like, isn't the beginning of the season supposed to be when a team like the Mavericks is successful, as all these other teams are integrating new parts and new players, and the Mavericks have got this team that's been together for basically 3 years now for the most part? Like, isn't that supposed to be an advantage in the early part of the season? And to not capitalize on that is disappointing.
I mean, you said something in our Slack, so please, if you don't want to insist upon this take, I think it's worth noting. You sort of held the bad start, you hung it on Luka Doncic, in the sense of Luka is the team leader, and he came out kind of lackadaisical himself. He did turn it on in the first quarter and ended up playing a pretty good game, with the exception of his insistence on taking these threes again, where he's 2 of 13. And then to start the year, I'd be curious what his 3-point percentage is through 3 games, because it can't be, he was 2 of 10 in game 1, 4 of 9 in game 2, 2 of 13. So that's just like, that's 8 total makes and 32 misses. So 32 total shots. Like, that's not good. That's 25%. So he needs to clean that up. But the rest of the game, it's like I thought he played not bad defense. I thought he moved the ball well. He was getting to the lane. If he made, so it's like doing the math here. He made 14 of 17 2-point shots. Why are you taking threes, friendo? 14 of 17 2-point shots.
Yeah, and I want to like expound. Like, I'm also with you, like, the kid thing and the way he coached the game, and like starting JaVale, and then like that fourth quarter run when they got down by like 9 or like somewhere around there, and not calling a timeout for like 5 minutes, like that. Like, I'm totally with you. Like that.
This is just
I think my point is more like, in addition to Kid, me having some questions with how Kid coached the game, I'm also just kind of getting over the Mavericks playing teams that they theoretically on paper should win and win comfortably. I mean, I'm sorry, like, New Orleans is going to be a great team, and they clearly showed it tonight. But the Mavericks should still, if the Mavericks are as good as we think they are, they should win this game by double digits when the team is missing 3 starters. Like, it's not like, let's spin it around. If the Mavericks were missing Luka, Christian Wood, and Dorian Finney-Smith, would they win a game against a full health Pelicans? Like, I don't think just put the shoe on the other foot. Like, would you expect them to win that game? No, you would not. And that's not a slight against the team. It's just, there's just limitations. There should be limitations here. And I think what's getting annoying is this is a pattern of just these games that where the Mavericks feel like they should be comfortable and they're playing an opponent that they might be more talented than, with either missing starters or if they're playing a bad team. Like, I'm just tired of these lackadaisical starts in these games like this, and it's just the energy doesn't look good. And I know Luka finished the first quarter with 14 points and 6 assists, so statistically I don't have an issue with what he's doing. I just think he is the team leader, and there has to be a way for him to rally this group and be like, hey guys, they're missing 3 start, let's jump on this, let's get on this team. Maybe he said that, maybe this stuff is happening and we don't know it, and the team is just not responding. I don't know. I'm not in the huddle, but I'm just tired of these kind of games where it feels like Luka doesn't necessarily respect his opponent, and I feel like that energy just trickles down to the rest of the team because Luka's the head of the snake, and his temperament and body language and energy is going to reflect across the rest of the team and his mindset.
And MVP caliber players and MVP winners crush the weaker opponents. And Luka's honest to God, had this specific problem going back the entire time he's been with the Mavericks, where year 2 in particular, if I remember correctly, the Mavericks
year 2 was bad.
They had a horrendous record. Was it year 2? Might have been year 3. But it's at one point in time, they had a terrible record against teams under 500. And then they win, games against some of the best teams in the league. And that, an element of that falls on the superstar. I still, for me, the simplest corrections though, is you stop starting the games with JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee was a terrible signing. We said so at the time and tried to couch it in so much as we want to give this team some benefit of the doubt. But Jason Kidd wanted JaVale McGee, and so he got JaVale McGee. Why you want JaVale McGee in the year 2022 is beyond me. There might be some games where he's been great. I haven't seen it. He's supposed to come in and help with rebounds. You know how many rebounds he got in 8 minutes tonight, or in the minutes that he played tonight? 12 minutes, 2 boards.
Yeah.
2 boards. He got his ass kicked by Jonas Valanciunas. He did not go. He would honestly look like late stage DeAndre Jordan. That's what do you remember I used to post those clips of Jordan never going for blocks? He would just watch guys. That's what McGee did. McGee looked like that tonight. And in those 12 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. I interrupted you. I was going to say, in the first 5 minutes of the game, or maybe 6 minutes, he was directly responsible for giving up 6 baskets. And a lot of those were layups. And that was bad. That was bad. Just got them in the hole. New Orleans scored 40 points in the first quarter. And you're starting the game. That's the whole reason you're starting McGee, is to get off to a good, get off to the good defensive start. That's the whole point. If you're giving up 40-point first quarters with him as your starter, you're just digging yourself into a hole that's going to be really hard to climb out of. And lo and behold, they couldn't climb out of it.
Well, and that's where I keep coming back to these rotational decisions, and really team building decisions, because once again, in a loss, you see the elements of where they need that third playmaker. Facu Campazzo came into the game. And look, I'm just going to get this out of my system. Facu Campazzo and Josh Green cannot fucking play together. What planet are we on? What in the hell was that? That's playing 2 non-offensive players together. They were combined 2 of 6, which honestly, better than I would have thought.
To be honest, those minutes weren't as bad as you thought, despite some of the bad plays.
But they held it together for the first part of the fourth quarter, and then things just went south in a hurry. 14 minutes for Green, 13 minutes for Campazzo. Can't be doing that. Neither played particularly. I'm not hanging anything on them. It's more of a rotational thing where it's how did that happen?
They kind of have to, though, right? If those 2 guys don't play, who's playing those minutes?
But that's where it comes, where people have been telling me, and I love y'all in my green rooms to come and talk to me and tell it's, the Mavs are deep. And I'm like, I just don't see it. I see 8 guys. I see 8 guys that are really, when Tim Hardaway's out tonight, it's 7 guys. So it's 7 guys who can play, and then it's whoever they feel like going with. And, when you knock McGee out of this, I just worry about the depth over the course of the season. And so it's all these things together where Kidd has said, we're going to give it 8 to 10 games and then we're going to make some changes. I'm not sure he can continue that. Maybe they go ahead and stumble through and they play 500 basketball, but I'm going to be just continually annoyed because we're wasting Luka Doncic performances. I mean, I got a message tonight from my friend Seth Partnow, and he's not going to be happy. I'm not going to quote him, but he basically pointed out that Luka has an effective field goal percentage in quarters 1 through 3, 58.5. In the fourth quarter, he's shooting 36.4% for effective field goal percentage, and that's a load issue. Okay, that's a load issue.
Yeah, I mean the guy's got a 40% usage, and you just watch all these games and it's incredible the numbers he's putting up. But something I tweeted out earlier, and I want your take. And I promise it relates to. I'm not bogarting the discussion here.
Okay, but I'm ranting at this point.
This is advertiser content brought to you by Frito-Lay.
Hello, I'm Chip Murphy, here to get you ready for the big tournament. Tonight we'll break down who will be cutting. Cut! What are you two doing?
Sorry, Chip. Prez here got his feathers ruffled when I told him Ruffles has 0 chance of winning the title.
And I was letting Dip know that she is not taking into account Ruffles' iconic ridges.
Guys, it's March. We have to start talking about the tournament.
We are. It is the 2023 Frito-Lay Snack It.
We're talking about big-time matchups between Cheetos, Smart Food, Lay's, Sun Chips, and more.
Just head to the Frito-Lay Snack Bracket and vote for your favorite chip, pretzel, or dip for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks.
This sounds great. Keep up the good work.
Just go to fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends 4/3/2023. Void where prohibited. Here's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for 1 bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com.
But does it feel like to you? It feels like this to me, and I just want to know your take on it. Like opposing defenses are, and through 3 games, things could change. But so far through 3 games, opposing defenses are staying closer to Dorian, Maxey, and Reggie more than they were, a year ago, and then for Maxey and Dorian, the last couple of years. Do you and you think about the space that creates for Luka, and he's been dominant in the paint, and that's opening things up for him. But at the same time, he's also the only guy. It's him and Dinwiddie that are the only guys that can really take advantage of that, and maybe Wood a little bit. But I mean, are these teams thinking like, man, let's let Luka play 38 minutes. Let's let him shoot 30 times. He'll make over half of them. He's going to score 35 points in the paint or whatever. He's going to score a bunch of points in the paint. But that's fine because Dorian, these other guys aren't going to do like Dorian's not going to beat you. Like if you're staying home on Dorian, there's not a lot of other ways he can beat you. Like the only other way, maybe it's the offensive glass. He has shown some more spunk in terms of driving, attacking closeouts. So that's not his game. It's not Reggie's game. That's not Maxey's game. And it's in the, those 3 guys combined for 14 points. And they only made 2 threes combined, those 3 guys. When the Mavs offense is humming, those guys are making 2 to 3 threes each. And I just wonder, is that sustainable for either way? Is it sustainable for opposing defenses? Because letting Luka terrorize at the paint, I don't know, does that catch up to you? But on the other end, it's like, man, if I'm trying to guard the Mavs and I'm looking at how this roster is constructed, I think I do the same thing, right? I think I let Luka control the ball as much as he wants, score as much as he wants, stay home on shooters, don't let him get a ton of assists, and Luka still finished with 7 assists because he's just that good of a passer. And just play the odds that way because you're not necessarily scared these other guys are going to beat you in other ways. And I'm just curious your thoughts on that and what you're seeing.
You see it with Dorian a lot because Dorian is having low impact games and really almost and the shot. You said this for a year and a half that the number of Dorian field goal attempts seems to dictate elements of the offensive flow for the Mavericks. Once again, he just he had five shots
and 2 threes.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up. Sorry, but I'll let you go right back to it. But I just want to say I looked it up. Last season in wins, I think he had 5.7 threes per game attempted and in losses he had 5. And I know that like 0.7, but like there was enough. I think there was enough there that hopefully proved statistically backed up what I was seeing. But yeah,
Right.
I just wanted to interject that.
But that plays directly into your thought of whether I'm seeing it. And Dorian has just been getting a lot of cardio. Bullock is a better relocation shooter. Like he kind of moves around a little bit
can
more.
Move off screens.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like that's just a difference in role. Bullock's actually been pretty good. It was just a really rough game from him tonight. 1 for 8 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3. I mean, the Mavericks as a team shot 31% from 3.
Yeah.
A lot of that being Luka, though.
There was a clutch possession, I think, when they were down 2 or 1. Like it was one of the possessions in the final, under the final 2 minutes, where they trapped Luka. Bullock was open in the corner, and they closed out. And they just the closeout was so like wild that Bullock just kind of Bullock drove right by it, and there was not really that much help. And Bullock kind of shot. Do you remember that play where he shot that floater from the baseline? Yep. And I was thinking, and the Pelicans coaches were probably like, beautiful. Like that's exact. Like teams are going to be like, yes, please.
Yep. That's what you want
every night, right?
One of the things that I've sort of noticed through 3 games is, and this is a slow start thing. This is not I am concerned about him. I have felt Maxi Kleber through 3 games has been middling at best. He obviously, really it's 2 losses because that Memphis game became such a blowout. He was fine in it. He 9 points and 8 rebounds. There's absolutely no complaints there. But I felt that he has really looked, frankly, just a step slow. He's out there for defensive purposes, and he's obviously battling. But the Pelicans came up with some offensive boards tonight at key times, and I'm a little like it float like he and Dorian. I sort of have like the similar concerns for different reasons, where they just have to be a tiny bit better, and maybe they'll figure that out as the year goes on. I assume they will. But in these 2 losses, when you look at kind of your role player stat logs, it's a little vexing. It's not like big time cause for alarm, but it's just you 28 minutes, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 turnovers. The turnovers pretty bad. You can't have turnovers from but it's just I'm not phrasing this right. It's just something where it's like I want him to play, because I think he can really help balance out aspects of what Wood does. That he and Wood can play 5-out basketball with Luka and everyone else.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And I mean, honestly, I don't know if you have the box score up on your end, but like, just look at the scoring differences between the Pelicans and the Mavericks. The Mavericks had 3 guys in double digits, and that's it. The Pelicans had 8. And the Pelicans had 3 guys off their bench scoring double figures. And that's with them missing 3 starters. So 3 bench players so they went deeper into their bench than maybe they normally would. And they still had 3 guys off the bench score double figures. And I was watching the game, and I think it was just like, and this is an issue that like, I don't know the answer right now, and it's not an indictment on the Mavericks players, because they're kind of doing their jobs in a way. Like Maxi's job is to play defense and spot up and shoot. Dorian's job is to play defense and spot up and shoot. The defense was a little worrisome at times, so we can criticize him for that. But I thought Maxi, he had 2 blocks, and I know there's more to rim protection for a big than 2 block shots. But I thought he kind of helped get them back in the game in the second and third quarters defensively. But his impact can only go so far. He's 1 of 3 from the field, and he has 7 points. So but that's like, if teams are going to guard him and Dorian closer, that's not necessarily like, it's not necessarily those guys' fault that they don't have a counter ready right now. Like Maxi is 30? I think he's 30 or 31. He's 30. He'll be 31 before the year ends. Dorian is close to 30. Like those guys were undrafted. Like those guys being as good as they are right now is a miracle in itself, and a tribute, like a dedication to the hard work they've put in. Asking those guys to do like, okay, now you guys need to be like, have some off the bounce juice, and you guys need to be able to attack close. Like there's a limitation to some, like you can only push the limit so far, especially with these undrafted free agent guys. And it's not their fault. and it's a weird expectation to place on them. Like that's just not part of their game, and I don't think you can expect it. And then you just look at the Pelicans, and they've just got like Larry Nance Jr. is a good player with good pedigree. Like Devontae Graham is weird. He can shoot you in and out of games, so I'm not going to really. He's kind of like their THJ, I feel like. But like Daniels, their draft pick, like he is really talented, and he was a top 10 pick. And Murphy, he was also like he's a super talented guy. He was also 17th overall pick. I think was Alvarado a second rounder or undrafted, but like those guys have a little bit more talent and juice to it. Like you could just watch during the game. They're not just guys that if you close out on them, they can't really offer you anything. Like they just do some different things, and that's just because they're like, Daniels is a top 10 pick. Murphy was picked 17th overall, and it's just I feel like I'm meandering here, but it just goes to show that it's hard to you're going to have nights like the Mavericks had tonight when you have a roster that's so heavily reliant on basically two guys to do all of your dribbling. And it's going to look good some nights, like against Memphis, when, guys are hitting shots and the defense looks good. But there's going to be nights like tonight where the shots aren't falling or they're not there. And the counter is, okay, Luka, you guys have to do more. Like Christian Wood, you need to do more. You guys have to score more. Like it's just difficult. It just felt like such a contrast watching this Pelicans roster and this Mavericks roster in terms of like what can they get out of their role players. And again, it's not an indictment on the Mavericks guys. It's just,
Well, I mean, we've not even talked.
First round picks are going to draft some talented guys, and the Mavericks don't really have that.
No, the team don't like it's just sort of like, and I don't want to be like super morbid after 3 games. It's just the way this team has been constructed, and then you look at the way the other teams have been constructed. Like the future power rankings for ESPN came out today, and the Mavericks were 13th despite having Luka Doncic, and it's an indictment of team building. It's an indictment going back 10 years. It's an indictment of the whole thought process between the risks that they've taken that haven't paid off, even if they might have been good ideas at the time, and compared to some of these other teams. And they've just built a team that is capable of being quite good, but sort of has like, they're just games and times when like the hinge points are so painful where it's like, okay, if these things aren't all working, they look really rough.
Right.
And the defensive elements, I think, get cleaned up because I just don't think you play JaVale. Like, I think they eventually figure out that they can't play JaVale. Like,
and they played him 12 minutes tonight, so they're already figuring it out.
Dwight Powell, I earnestly think Dwight Powell makes a comeback because Dwight might be a defensive disaster as well, but Dwight Powell doesn't make the mistakes that McGee was making. He's just not he's smaller and has a high center of gravity and isn't as, that sort of defensively athletic. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, hey, I mean, I don't think this is an outlandish statement. I know I've been the Dwight Powell homer on our website, but like, in terms of guarding the pick and roll in the modern NBA, like Dwight Powell is absolutely a better defender than JaVale McGee. Like with McGee, you have to exclusively play drop coverage, and that's all you can do with him. Like Powell can say what you will about Powell, and he offers very little to nothing as a rim protector. I mean, he can switch, hedge, and trap, and we've seen him do those things quite well. And I think as a regular season, in the playoffs, some of that stuff doesn't translate as well. But as a regular season guy, like I could have absolutely seen him making a difference on the defensive end in this game, being able to get out to shooters more often. Like I saw some Pelicans guys just kind of walk into some 3-pointers and open shots out of the pick and roll because like McGee can't get out there, and like you don't want Wood, and you don't want Wood doing that stuff either. You notice that Wood doesn't necessarily guard the pick and roll directly a lot of times on the floor. Like Maxi's guarding the pick and roll. Like they put him on a guy in the corner because they also don't want Wood guarding defensively in the pick and roll. And I'm not saying Powell's the answer here, but he just has a different tool set than McGee, and maybe they need to be a little bit more flexible depending on who they're playing. Like a team like New Orleans, I guess you're worried a little bit about Valanciunas eating you up on the boards, but I mean, otherwise they got a bunch of guards and wings that love to scoot around pick and rolls and spring for jumpers. And that to me doesn't sound like a drop coverage scheme to answer that,
Yeah. Well, we're just sort of meandering at this
Yeah,
point because
sorry.
I'd like to discuss. I'd like to discuss something more fun. I would like for things
Yes.
to click. I didn't. I watched the Grizzlies game, but it was like watching it from a bar 40 feet away. So it's like much different context. And we've said this in the chat. It's you're not you're when you win a game like that. There's not like it's really fun, but it's hard to take certain elements away because the game was over so early. And it's good for the Mavericks to go ahead and close the door on it, but that is what it is. Okay. And cool. Well, no, I'm annoyed because I'm reading our Slack and there was a miscommunication in that I thought someone else had grabbed the recap and no one had. So I'm going to have to hop offline and do that. So that's real fun. I don't really got anything else. We'll reconvene on Thursday night. The Mavericks need to get their shit together is all I'm gonna really say. And they're gonna have to figure this sort of thing out, and how to close these games. I'm tired of losing national television games. Do you remember how many national television games the Mavericks lost last year to open the year? Like they just lost game after game on national TV, and it's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah, because everyone on your timeline is watching that game.
Yes,
it's
tired
annoying.
of it. Get it together. It's like,
but hey, the schedule gods grace them again because guess what? The Brooklyn Nets will be on the second night of a back-to-back when they play the Mavericks. So
yeah, and they're atrocious defensively. So there's
this is
at least to even it out and then play to up and coming, but still less talented teams in the Thunder and the Magic over the weekend. So. All right, guys, this has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Tune in, check your feed tomorrow afternoon for group therapy. I'll be back when we can, and we'll see what we have cooking. Come to MavsMoneyball.com. We've got a lot of different stuff. There's posts coming up tomorrow from Brent Brooks that he has spent a lot of time on that I'm also going to have to spend some time editing tonight because I didn't even look at it today. All right, have fun being grumpy about this game, guys, because it was an annoying loss. Talk to you guys a little later in the week.